Hi, everyone. My name is Lynette Solis,
And I'm Sandra McGarrah.
and we are the data analyzers. This week, I worked on my reflections for chapters 12 and 13. So for chapter 12, we talked about learning analytics. And learning analytics is basically taking data and analyzing it to improve learning. So learning analytics consists of looking for insight into observed behavior by discovering patterns and promptly taking action to address the problems. Another definition I really liked was that it's the collection, measurement, analysis, and reporting of data about learners and their learning context with the goal of understanding and optimizing learning. So the most important part of learning analytics is to take action and create plans to improve the areas that show a deficit. So I found a diagram or a picture that kind of walks through the process. So in this chapter, it really talked about collecting the data and the different types of data and really deciding on what you're using that data for. And so here it gives an example of, we have Sarah, and we're choosing that she accessed a forum, and we have John that passed an assessment. So you're focusing on the action and then whatever piece of data you're looking at to analyze. Here we have the analyze part. We have the description, or the descriptive and the predicate. So the descriptive was what happened or what you noticed, and the predictive is what you predict to happen. So the examples they gave were that 76% of students have watched the module introduction video, which is what actually happened. And the predictive is that 11% of School X students are at risk of withdrawal in year one. So based on what they saw, this is what they predicted would happen. And then you have the intervene, which is your plan of action on how you plan to address those issues. So here it talks about reviewing by human, means that you determine if intervention is required, and conversation. So having conversations and recording the dialogue between students and staff at all levels. And then another big part of this chapter was the data. So the type of data collected determines the purpose of the data, such as whether the instructional designer is focused on engagement, retention, or learning. So depending on what your focus is what's going to determine what type of data you pull. There was a big talk also about learning management systems in this chapter and how they're used to collect data easier, because you have things like built in that can tell you how long students have looked at something, how much time they've spent in the program, and also collects their responses in forums and turning in assignments, those kind of things. And so if you're looking for engagement, that time aspect would be really important. If you're looking for retention, things like assessments, and for learning, our artifacts that we make in class, or our assignments that we do and turn in to justify those learnings. And so here it says learning analytics can help educators identify and reinforce weak content areas, as well as address student needs for additional instruction. So that's the importance of data, is helping us to identify and know where to address issues. The use of technology makes these things more concerning due to laws based on privacy and copyright. When it comes to analytics based on culture, it is hard to compare and predict due to the wide range of culture that is represented in different courses and areas. So basically, there's a lot of challenges that can come with collecting data through a technology aspect because of ethical, legal, and privacy matters mainly. Those legal and privacy matters have a lot of laws in place that make it hard to collect that data or pull that data to use to analyze. And then we have chapter 13, which is on-site and virtual project management. So project management is responsible for making sure everyone has information that they need and meet deadlines. Instructional design project management involves executing processes that drive the initiation, performance, and completion of learning design projects. Project management is not about being able to manage time or create plans. It's about being able to work cooperatively as a team or with a team. And so there's 4 phases to be familiar with. And these phases are based on the Hershey and Blanchard situational leadership model. So the leadership styles, there's 4 different phases or stages. So you have directing, which is high directive, low support, meaning you're giving more directions on what they're supposed to be doing and how they should be doing it, and not really as much just supporting. You have coaching, which is really a lot of both. Supporting, which is more support and low directions or giving people specific directives. And then delegating, which is low support and low directive. And then with that, you also have the followers' competence and commitment. So this was based off the leadership, and this is based off of the other members of the team. So you have the self-reliant achiever, which is low competence but high commitment. So these are the people that are really excited to work with you, but they may not have all the necessary knowledge or skills. And then you have the capable but cautious contributor, meaning that they have some of the skills, but they don't have a real high commitment to the project. Then you have the disillusioned learner, which means that they have high competency, they know a lot about the matter, but they have low commitment to the project. And then you have your enthusiastic beginner, which is high competence and high commitment, which means it's your fully developed team member. And then there's 10 essential project manager traits. These are a shared vision, good communication, integrity, enthusiasm, empathy, competence, ability to delegate, composure under pressure, team building skills, and problem solving skills. What I noticed when I was looking up the manager traits and based off of what I read in the book, none of these traits are really what you would look at what a project manager should do. So these are all focused on the traits and how they should act and how they should work with their teams and what team members really look for in project managers. They don't really look for somebody who can tell them what to do. They don't really look for somebody who can manage time or give them deadlines. They look for people who have all of these types of traits, which is basically just good leadership. Another part of the chapter was communication. So the biggest part of project management is communication and being able to communicate effectively and efficiently and making sure everybody knows the expectations for them. And so here on this diagram, it talks about the instructional project manager in the middle and then all the different parts of the team on the outside. And so here it says, not only must team members understand their own roles, but they should also realize how all relationships in the entire organization interact and depend on each other. So a good project manager makes sure that everybody knows what's expected of them and what everybody's roles are. And that allows for team members to also discuss and work around each other, but also the project manager is the go-between when people need that extra help as well. And then the last part is virtual project management. So this is being seen more due to technology advancements. While it makes it easier in some ways to communicate more frequently, it also has its challenges. So project managers, virtual project managers often go without even meeting any of the members of the team due to members being chosen based on skill for specific projects, meaning that these members could be all over the world or even in the same town. It just depends on the project. Managers should also communicate more frequently when they are handling a project virtually to ensure that deadlines are being met and feedback is being provided. So it really focused on, even though you're not face to face, making sure that you are collaborating as a team and making your team feel like they matter and that they're a part of the team and that they kind of know each other, and building that trust and that reliability that they can come to you if they have questions or things like that. And so I found this diagram also, which kind of just gives some things to look at when you're talking about virtual project management.
Mhm.
And that's all. And my references, which is all these.
A lot. Very good.
All right.
Okay. So now I'm Sandra McGarrah. I'm gonna show you mine. You've already had it open. I did read assignment 5. It was on evaluation and instructional design, and then comparing some models of evaluation, and then also intro to return on investment. So the first model that I reviewed was Kirkpatrick Model. It has 5 parts to it: reaction, learning, impact, and results. And as I learned, reaction is the bottom level, and then you work up from there, all the way up to results. There's 4 levels. So the Kirkpatrick model was created by Donald Kirkpatrick in the 50s. And then he used this model based on a PhD dissertation, and I'm assuming it was his dissertation, evaluating human relation programs for industrial foremen and supervisors. Now this model is used worldwide. There's been some changes, some variations to it, but it's the basis of this model has been used everywhere. So I'll quickly go through the 4 training levels, evaluation levels. It begins with the first one, and I put number 1 at the bottom. This allows you to measure contribution, engagement, and reaction of the trainees. The training needs to be worthwhile to your learners. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. And it allows you to make improvements to the program by recognizing valuable areas that might have been missed when you're just developing the training module. The second is learning. This one focuses on what your trainees have and have not learned, what your learners have learned and not learned. And it measures their confidence about what they've learned, their demonstration of the new skill, and their motivation to change. Also down here, we talked about in this area, they talk about attitudinal learning, and it involves setting goals, motivation, and attitudes that relate to the training program's objectives. So you're wanting your learners to begin to set these goals, their motivation and attitudes about the training program that they begin to implement it. Level 3 is behavior. This helps you to recognize how well people make use of their training. And it said it could uncover where people might need help. Measuring behavior takes time. It's a long-term process. It doesn't just happen through one training session. It takes many months to be able to observe behavior. Results is level 4. This is your analysis of your final results of your training. And this will begin to identify which results or benefits are most closely linked to the training. And the improvement of education evaluation depends on the feedback, which assists with developmental and improvement of learning and teaching strategies. And this was Kirkpatrick model. These are my references. And then I go on to the next, which was utilization focused evaluation. It's called UFE. The 5 steps of UFE framework are: identify primary intended users, gain commitment to UFE, and focus on the evaluation. Decide on evaluation options, analyze and interpret findings and reach conclusions, disseminate evaluation findings. So UFE was developed by Michael Quinn Patton. It's an approach based on the principle that an evaluation should be assessed on its usefulness to its proposed users. Evaluations should be planned and conducted in ways that improve the use of both the findings and the process itself to inform decisions and improve performance. So UFE has two elements. One of them, the first element, users must clearly identify and participate from the very beginning evaluation process. They cannot come in during the middle of it. This will confirm that the user's original intended uses can be identified. Everybody starts from the same place. This is the way you're going to get your evaluation, your data. Second, evaluators must make sure that these intended uses of the evaluation by the initially planned users guide all other decisions that are made about the evaluation process. So the evaluator also needs to be there and guide these learners through the process. UFE is centered on real and specific users and uses. The evaluator's job is to assist the decision-making with the people who will use the outcomes of the evaluation, which these would be data analyzers that are analysis. They're going to be the ones analyzing. This is what those evaluators' job is. The intended uses of the evaluation results must be agreed on with everyone involved, so the evaluation will have the desired effect. And so these evaluators, they work with the intended users, their specific users that are going to use the training to determine specific significant uses at the beginning of the evaluation process. Program goal setting occurs when the intended users of the evaluation are identified. So in this process, UFE, it's very, very important that you have the same people throughout the training, starting from the very beginning. And another part of this says evaluation cannot occur unless there is criteria to evaluate. And these are these processes here. This is why criteria is critical to the evaluation process. And then there's 5 parts of criteria represents the essence of evaluation's function. It says without criteria, there's no judgment. Without judgment, there's no evaluation. Criteria number 2, express, establish and incorporate and make use of what is valued. Criteria facilitate the transformation of values into judgments. Criteria focuses on what is important. Criteria number 4, direct what questions to ask, inform information to gather, and outcomes to emphasize. And then finally, criteria focuses on assessment, reporting, and conclusions. To what extent and in what ways have criteria been met? As far as my opinion on this, I think they're both very good, but I had a tendency to like the Kirkpatrick model a little bit better, but I do see the purpose of this, and I do understand how important criteria is after reading this, but I think you could have the same outcome using the Kirkpatrick model. These were my references. And then I'm going to go on to the ROI, which was Introduction to Return on Investment. Let's put the instructions here, what we were to do. And we're supposed to give 5 inquiry-based questions. And so the first one that I came up with, we were looking at the Phillips ROI model. And the Phillips ROI model was being compared to the Kirkpatrick model. So Phillips has a different level 3 than Kirkpatrick. Their level 3 focuses on implementation and application, but Kirkpatrick model focuses on behavior. So my question was, in question 1, the very first website we read, extending training evaluation with ROI. My question was, how do you thoroughly assess someone's behavior through an assessment according to the third level of the Kirkpatrick model, which is behavior? My second comes from the second website, Complete Phillips ROI Model Tutorial for Beginners. So again, this is going, speaking of the Phillips ROI model and comparing it to Kirkpatrick and UFE. They compared it mostly to Kirkpatrick as I was reading. My question was, how does the Phillips ROI model make it easier to assess training to see if there does or does not translate into workplace changes? And again, that I saw in the Kirkpatrick model more than I saw in the UFE model. Second question, this is my third question. How is the Phillips ROI model level 3, which is application and implementation, and improvement over Kirkpatrick's model level 3 behavior? I want to know what is the difference between the two levels. My next question, in what ways is the Phillips ROI model, which is level 3, superior to the Kirkpatrick model level 3, which is the behavior, because of the subtle differences in identifying an issue with the application or with implementation? That's very different than behavior. So my interest lies in level 3. I want to know the difference between the two. My last question was based on the ROI methodology process model. And then this was very important to me that I saw through UFE model and with the Phillips ROI methodology. My question was, what are the appropriate steps to make sure your data is authentic when using the Phillips ROI methodology? So those were my 5 questions from the 3 different websites. Here were my references. And that is my journal reflection for this week.
Awesome, great job. I did have a question for you though. Is that the only, between the Phillips model and the Kirkpatrick, is that the only difference is level 3?
Yes, from what I read, and I could be wrong, but everything that I read from that is that the main difference is what they did was just make that change in level 3 to fit
Instead of
their
focusing
model that they wanted.
behavior, they're focusing more on the application and implementation.
And I actually,
Which I can see how those actually could go hand in hand, because you would want to look at what's going on and the behaviors being applied in that application and implementation. So what are you doing to apply it?
right.
And how are you implementing that?
But what I think is this, using application and implementation is more objective than subjective, that I think
Okay.
come back with better data.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's kind of
measure that better than
lean
behavior.
toward this more so, but that's where I found my interest was in that level 3 between Phillips and Kirkpatrick, because I saw there is a difference between the two, and I just kind of wanted to understand what it was.
All right, good job, awesome job.
Thank you. So this concludes our journal reflection.
All right.